Well, I'm at the Edinburgh Book Festival. I'm involved in two events. One is 10 at 10, which is a little amuse-gueule, I suppose, as we say in the French language, a little anticipatory taste of what might happen later in the day. A 10-minute event, just a little couple of poems or poem songs that I read this morning, Saturday morning. And the main event for me is later this evening at 7 o'clock, when there'll be a full-scale electrified reading rather than the little unplugged thing that we had this morning. At the moment, I am reading a book on the lost civilizations of the Stone Age. Like many poets, I am very interested in what I believe we find in bookstores under the rubric of non-fiction. I'm interested in history, I'm interested in geography. I've just been reading a book on the history of Scotland as I've been travelling around the country. So I read books on unlikely subjects. And I've also just started a book on the history of the Mediterranean between 6000 BC and 1000 AD. So that kind of book that basically involves, I suppose, interesting information, you know? So I, in some ways, of course, consciously or unconsciously, some of it may be fodder, as it were, for poems, you know, because I'm interested in poems that are interesting. One of the great delights of being in Edinburgh during the festival is, of course, that one is not here for a single festival. I mean, astonishingly, there are 4 or 5 or 6 or maybe 7 festivals running concurrently. It's the kind of thing that on paper simply shouldn't work, but it somehow does. And there's such a joyous aspect in this city at this time. My family and I have been coming here for years, quite apart from the book festival, in which we've been involved for several years too. But just to delight in what's happening and to lurch from one show to another. Yesterday, for example, we went to 8 shows, including, I think, there came the point where I really was losing it. I believe we were at 3 improvisational musicals. And frankly, there comes the point, as it must for the groups involved in them, where the one improvisational musical really does begin to kind of bleed into the next one. But terrific fun, a lot of fun. For the book festival, I've just been speaking to my colleague Michael Longley, another Belfast poet, and it's great to hang out with him. Ed O'Brien has been here. So a lot of people, one of the great things about the book festival is that one's catching up with so many of the writers who one would not necessarily see from one end of the year to the other. And I think the great delight of a festival like this is that, you know, writing is a solitary activity. And I'm sure many people have talked about this, but it's absolutely wonderful, I find, to meet people who are engaged in this same solitary activity and to be reminded in a word or two that one is not the only person doing it, that one's not alone, one is not sole in the solitary. And actually I find that it sort of sends me back anyway with a refreshed sense of things, renewed in some way, back to the desk, and you know, let's see what comes up, what happens next at the desk, having been out here on the lawn.